Your brain's default setting is survival, not success. It's wired to keep you safe, not to help you thrive. And so here's what most people do. They doubt their abilities, they repeat the same mistakes, and they play small when you're meant to dominate. And so that's the work of your subconscious mind, where all the baggage from your past lives, right, if you don't actually overwrite the programming, will keep you back in your comfort zone.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
And so one thing we talked about before, anybody remember the thing that we went through in September? We talked about it. I had 1K Blake, the version of us sells 1,000 houses a year, right? My coach had 25 mil bill. They do 25 million in their thing. Some of you guys we have multiple things here. 100K. Right? Agents. Who made one? Ryan, you made one, right?
Yep, 100K Ryan.
100K Ryan. Have you gone back and read it lately? No. Right? And so I realized some of the stuff that I wrote down, I didn't, which is why I want to redo it today. I'm going to do it differently, though. A little bit through questions. Okay? And so there's levels that you guys want to be for 2025. Typically, 100K. A lot of you guys are already crushing that. 200K. A lot of you guys are already crushing that. 300K. Right? And then obviously, there's some of you that are knocking on the door where you want to have a 7-figure net worth, right? And the person that's 7-figure net worth, aka millionaire, has a different what? Set of behaviors, disciplines, routines, and decision making than someone who's not a millionaire. You with me on that? Right? As I went through the ranks to do that and hit the first version of millionaire and hit multimillionaire, guess what happened to the way that I behaved and did things?
Change.
A lot differently, right? You have to. And so that's why we talk about another piece of that is the capacity that you have, where the shit that bothers you when you're at 100K doesn't even phase you at 200K. The shit that bothers you at 200K doesn't phase you at 300K per year. You guys with me on this? And the stuff that bothers you at 300K doesn't phase you at 500K. Why is that?
Different problem.
You've been through it, you learned from it.
You've been through it, but you've also learned to overcome that. And you've grown your capacity, so the things that triggered you before, that bothered you before, that worried you before, no longer bothers you. Why? Because your singular focus isn't so much higher in terms of where it needs to go. Right? My focus is on much bigger things, so I don't worry about small things like a guy I call on the money phone about a for sale sign. Why? Because I'm focused on things that bring multiple 7 figures to the business per year, and if I pull myself off of that and worry about a guy who's complaining about a for sale sign, guess what? We don't hit multiple 7 figures as a company. You guys with me on this? And so it's just one of those things I want to go back. Now, what do you think the number one thing that holds you guys back from hitting your goal is? Most agents. What do you think it is?
Writing it down.
Bigger than that. Your disciplines. You know what to do, but what happens?
Don't do it.
You don't do it. Why?
More comfortable not to.
Well, let's talk about what we talked about today. What's the reason you think you don't do it?
Procrastination.
Okay, which also goes to what?
Your goals.
No, deeper.
Your why.
What is it? Programming. See what I'm saying? So we don't even realize a lot of times that the reason I know I should make my dials, I know I should call my sellers that I didn't have appointments with, I know I should be for the 9 a.m. huddle, but I don't do it. Why? Because the programming running in the back of my head is not in alignment with me, the person I want to be, and the person I say I want to be on the outside. You guys with me on this? And so what we're going to do today is go through and create that a little bit and have some interesting questions to kind of look at. Number one, what's a vision and identity? So if I want to switch my identity from someone who's run by old bad programming from my parents to something where I want to be a, multiple 6-figure per year earner or a 7-figure net worth person, I have to learn to change what?
Your identity.
Identity, period. How I see the world, how I believe things should be, how I see myself, where I see all these things should be. And so that's the key part I want you guys to be here. I want you guys to write this down. Your past is your anchor. Your past is your anchor. What does that mean, you think? What's that?
Holding you back.
Holding you back. Why?
Because it's your program.
It's your programming, right? I want you guys to write this down. The second part of that same statement. Your avatar is your compass. Avatar is your compass. What does that mean?
Where you want to go.
Just so everybody's on the same page. What's an avatar?
character you're trying to be.
Character, right? So anybody remember the movie Avatar? What's that about?
Who wears the skin, basically.
Guy over the squint who's that character. And so if I'm looking at a business and I'm designing an avatar for my customer, what do I do? It's the first step anybody does in business is you identify your avatar, which is what?
Your customer-facing personality.
Who you're selling to. I want to know who they are, what their age group is, what they look like, what they talk like, their biggest fears, the things they want to gain, their dreams, their ambitions, all that stuff, because then at that point, once I have the avatar, reverse engineer my marketing and my sales process to what? To appeal to the avatar. You guys with me on this? And that's how you win the game of business. If I do the same thing for myself, I create the avatar of who? We'll call it here my 7-figure person, right? My 7-figure net worth, whatever it is. What your goal is for income this year, right? I want you to go ahead and write that down. What's mine now? What's my number from the sales side? Inside sales side, it would be a number. So like I won't have 1,800 points. We did not 950 last year, 960, whatever it was, right? Well, my goal for appointments this year would be, let's say, 1,800. As an example, then at that point, I'm reverse engineer how that person operates. It would be fair to say that the dude that does 1,800 appointments operates different than the guy who does 950. And so the secret sauce is to do what? What do you think the secret sauce is? Reverse engineer and connect the dots between the two to create the gap. And then at that point, I'll start working on what in 2025? Closing the gap. It's that simple. Okay, so we'll go through it. But the way to do that is through questioning overall with. So we talked about passion, anchor, avatar is your compass, right? So the key part there, and here's what I want you guys to understand. This is some science back to really back this before we get into the questions, is that the psychologists and neuroscientists agree that your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you create an avatar of your future self and you tap into the brain's power to rewire itself, this process is called neuroplasticity. I think I taught this last time. Neuroplasticity. Anybody know what that is? It's a process of rewiring your brain, right? It allows you to overwrite the old limiting beliefs with a new operating system, one that's built for winning. Okay? And so that's kind of the piece of what we do there. And obviously, I'll come down to a couple of quotes from Dr. Carol Dweck about mindset. Success comes down to a growth mindset, and part of that is envisioning who you want to become. Another big one you guys probably heard about, I follow his stuff a lot, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? The act of mentally rehearsing your future self changes your brain and body to look like the future you want to create. And third, a study from Stanford University says people who visualize and connect with their future selves are more likely to make decisions that align with long-term goals. Your past is just data. Your future is unlimited if you just design it. You guys with me on this? And so that's the science behind why it's important. And obviously we can go through and do the work behind it in a second. But your past conditioning is a saboteur. What does that mean?
I mean, it's there to fuck you up.
Sabotage you. Why? Because you've been programmed that way by people who did what? Let me ask you this. Anybody have parents that sabotaged their life? They were doing the best they could based on what? Their programming their parents gave them, which wasn't very good either. Which is why most people stay poor. Right? And so you have to change the way you think to be able to do so. And so here's the deal. Your brain's default setting is survival, not success. It's wired to keep you safe, not to help you thrive. And so here's what most people do. They doubt their abilities, they repeat the same mistakes, and they play small when you're meant to dominate. And so that's the work of your subconscious mind, where all the baggage from your past lives, right, if you don't actually overwrite the programming, will keep you back in your comfort zone. And so that's why creating a clear, powerful avatar of yourself isn't optional, it's mandatory. Your avatar becomes a lighthouse that guides you through the storm. You guys with me on this? So as the storm comes up in 2025, some things happen, stuff happens at home, whatever it is, I don't allow myself to get sucked into that. What do? I keep showing up, make sure I dominate, right?